Hey neighbors, the handyman here with Initiative Coffee Company, along with Artificial Intelligence, Jake Delmaro, and today we're talking about DDAL 4-13, The Horseman, writer Daniel Helmick, editors Claire Hoffman, and Travis Woodall. This is a 2-hour module for Tier 2 play, tuned to 5 7th level characters. The final obsession runs wild through Arras, now destroying much of the city, murdering the townsfolk, and generally wreaking havoc abound. Part 1, Bloody Demolition. The adventure starts depending on whether or not the party has just completed DDAL 4-12. Exosoxatera Song has a camp set up by Sybil to come to a final plan regarding the obsessions and Esme's nefarious plans. It seems that many of Esme's items have been collected and she is nearly at full power. Only the party with the locket they found in the Amber Temple can remove the power from Esme in order to foil her evil schemes. As the party makes their way back to Arras now, the city is in chaos under Omu's domination. The militia is hunting down townsfolk. Workers throughout the town are committing undue harm upon themselves in the line of work. The party must restrain or otherwise eliminate the threat of 15 dominated townsfolk before they can move on in the next part of this adventure. Jake, there's lumberjacks that are chopping trees until their hands are bloody. And there's dishwashers that are scalding themselves in hot
dishes.
Dishwasher water.
So real quick, first off, picking up, if you will, let's just watch the last video.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you get shot in the foot if you're a DM.
It's true.
Because this is literally where you get shot in the foot, where Saxa and Sybil are both together.
Right.
And
if you made your party make a charisma check and they failed it to get both of these captives, you're boned.
You're boned. You're screwed. She escaped. I don't know. But be mindful of that. I know you probably didn't read this mod before you finished that last one, but be aware. In the mod beginning of the overview, very important to note for this is kind of like, I guess they kind of did this for season 4. They were like, be wary of your party and be wary of people's preferences and stuff like that, because stuff can get weird and graphic. This is that mod. This is the one. This is one of them that just pops out after reading it. I'm like, yikes.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, that was not the worst of it. One I saw that was pretty bad was the blacksmiths, the furniture guys that were they lost the hammer and they were just like,
oh, it's like
nails. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, yeah. They didn't need to write that out. They could have left that one for the imagination. No, they wrote it out. So just don't run this one cold. Like, just make sure if you're gonna read something aloud, maybe read it in your head first.
Right.
Thought it was very interesting. You know, that they the city still exists. That's first very interesting. Like, I feel like in the last 15 weeks of you being here in Arras now has literally been the most action that this town has ever seen ever.
Sure.
And surprisingly, no one's left. Mm-hmm. But, you know, now they're all dead. Or a good chunk of them are going to be dead. Like the intro, I don't think it's very difficult. Hey, we need to go, you know, what is the dude's name? Omu.
Not to be confused with Omu from season 7, the whole continent.
Yeah. So Omu, he's a mongrel folk dude with super scion powers, which I think is way more dangerous than anyone we've ever, really anyone. I think so, period. Yeah. Like, just more scary than anything that is potentially available in this season. Yeah. That's him. And this will be mentioned later on, but as a DM, because players shouldn't be watching this unless, I don't know, but like,
everybody should watch these videos and keep in mind whether they're players or DMs.
Don't metagame. Yeah. There you go. That's my thing.
Don't get rid of half our audience, Jake.
Well, yeah. The thing that's important here is Omu's actually, and it says in one of the boxes, and I thought was interesting, was he's a victim. Mm-hmm. But he's also as he says, an oppressor as well. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because, like, he's heartbroken. Mm-hmm. Like, misguided heartbrokenness because he was obsessed with her. But, like,
I mean, that is the tale of this season, right? Like,
Yeah.
all of the obsessions are obsessions because they were obsessed with Esme. And all of them, like, that
It's
is
just
a
very
common through
interesting.
line, which is, I think it's interesting, too. I think it's nice to see a season that is tied together so well. And frankly, it's not super common. This is, I think, a high in terms of like long-term storytelling. I think this is a bellwether season in Adventures League because like there's one story being told throughout the whole module, and that is not the case in any other season that I know. Like I haven't really done any season 10, or I guess 11 is out now. But up
We
until
don't get to see this, like,
yeah,
and like it's interesting for me to see this specifically because it's a love tale with the guy with psionic powers.
yeah, like this is what happens when you like.
Part of my language, when his shit goes wild, it's just like, and like just explodes out in like a 10-mile radius of his emotions, just crazy.
Yeah.
And then the follow up to that is, speaking of the dishwashers with scalding things, how I understand it was it was a situation of their personal needs are trying to be met. And I think it's hilarious that the dishwashers are like, you know what I really want to do? Wash more dishes. Not like go do something else.
Right.
But like that's their primal urge, is wash more dishes.
This is what they live to do. They don't wash dishes to live, they live to wash dishes. Like,
and that doesn't speak to them being NPCs.
Right.
I do not know what it is.
Like, this is my identity, dishwasher.
Like this is,
all right.
Yeah, my resume, and or if you say so and so, it says dishwasher.
This is my bliss.
Wanted every day of the year, every day of his life wanted to be a dishwasher.
This is my bliss. Yeah, it's amusing to me too. Yeah,
I read that, I was like, oh, that is weird. But going back to the serious note, it's very cool that they did this kind of like encompassing, because psionics aren't really as prevalent in well, not now, they are, but they weren't really that present except for the occasional monster.
Yeah,
and it's just neat to see this, and then just how it says in this mod, it's a 2-hour mod. Keep it moving.
Yeah.
But like, don't skip on, I don't say the gore, but like the story behind it, like why it's happening.
Yeah.
And
I think
the damage it causes.
Yeah, I think that's tough for DMs too. Like it's tough to translate the like bullet texts and background into stuff your players learn.
Yeah.
And that's one of my big concerns with like AL mods overall is there's so much like adventure background written into every module that like if your players didn't find it out, it didn't happen, right? Like it's a lot of like world like placing these adventures in the world, but like if that doesn't get translated, why waste the column space, frankly? So it's tough to like get that information across. I honestly don't have a real good way of like translating like this is what they feel like their bliss is to players in this section. I think there's a lot of interesting like description going on, but I don't like, aside from like everyone looks dominated, like okay, everyone looks dominated, but
in a situation, it's tough, and it's unfortunate because it's like, realistically, you won't see the dishwashers.
No, you're not going to go into the seven. You're not going to go into the
like,
kitchen
hey,
of the
what's
seven
going
tables.
on? You're not going to go into the carpenter's shop. Like the ones you're going to encounter are like the militia. The
militia
hunters.
Gunning down villagers. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the hunters. Those are the only two you'd realistically run into.
Right.
And maybe the lumberjacks, but like,
unless like. Here's the thing: is like the whole thing stops when 15 villagers are
dead,
resolved, right? Whether they're killed or like stunned or dispelled or whatever. if you're a DM and you want your party to encounter dishwashers, maybe there aren't enough militia to resolve it. Maybe you hear like screaming in the kitchen, and like maybe they're doing it, but they can feel that it's painful. I don't know. Like
It's a
at
tough
some
spot.
point, like this is a tough thing to run because like how do you telegraph to your table without saying like you need to save or eliminate 15 villagers? How
And
do you
not to mention,
telegraph like the benchmarks here?
and then also not make it seem like it's a task,
Yeah,
like or a like oh, in your upper right hand corner it says 9 out of 15
right.
completed.
Or
Like
specifically here to burn your resources, right? Like
yeah,
that's I mean, and that's essentially what this is. Like either kill 15 people or use dispel magic on 15 people.
yeah,
Um, but you want it to feel like you want your players to feel like they're engaged in, pardon me, in the success here,
yeah.
and not that they're burning resources to make the final fight more challenging.
Like it's if anything, the only way this like realistically becomes a thing is if there's named NPCs here that
Mm-hmm.
you can see or reference to. So if you are running this mod and you have maybe someone's got or maybe the your players have a affinity towards certain
Mm-hmm.
NPCs, throw those names in there. Like
Absolutely.
doesn't need to be a whole investigation, but
Yep.
like hey, if they have been like in I think that's also part of being a DM in an Adventures League in a more campaign style setting is
Mm-hmm.
hey, this person likes this person because they're gonna keep on referencing them in the town because they're like, oh, we want to go check with so and so because this happened.
And it
Um,
goes to like support the notion that like you need to run these mods in order, right? Like
mhm.
if this is a one-off module, your party hasn't made those connections. If this is the 13th module in a season that you've run for the party, you're gonna have 11 throwaway NPCs with names that you came up with on the fly, and six of them
Yeah,
will be George, whatever. Like, but like your party is gonna find reasons to first of all, irritate you into naming NPCs, and second of all, reasons to keep those NPCs coming back. So,
yeah.
this is a good one. That's a good way to engage folks.
So I think that's moving past that. I'm beating a Ras now into submission at this point.
Mhm.
Just do your best to manage them. Don't make it seem so overtly like, hey, this is literally a resource dump.
Yeah.
Um, and it's cool that there's a part in here after it says it could just be like, yeah, we don't want to deal with this town because in the instance that you are running a one-off on 4-13 for this party,
Mhm.
they'd be like, why do we care?
Why do we care? Yeah.
Like, who gives a hoot? And it says, walking away from people so clearly suffering should tear at the consciousness of any good line character. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if you lean into that. It's tough to
Especially in
Adventures
an
League.
AL where alignment is so like nebulous anyway.
This could be a situation where it's like, I hate alignment checks because I think they're the most BS thing in the world. Because no, I feel like AL kind of waters down some of
Hmm.
the alignment system, and I think the alignment system is kind of hand wavy in 5e at times. Because you can be within like one iteration of what your current alignment is, which is dumb. Um, to a degree, because
Hmm.
like there are decisions you make, like a paladin's not going to do every single thing that's holy or lawful,
Right.
depending on what they're doing, of course. But like,
There aren't the consequences of failing to act in your alignment that there were in previous editions,
yeah,
right?
and
Like there were
and then
class
further,
requirements for alignment in earlier editions that like if you
don't
act
exist now.
non-lawfully as a paladin, you lose your paladin abilities until you atone, right? Like it's just not
Yeah,
around anymore.
and then on top of that, it's like you have the lack of evil characters, or like I don't think to say that's a bad thing, but Adventures League now no longer allows like bad characters, so everyone's is should in the game push to going to the city
Hmm.
because what's the point of adventuring with good characters if you're not going to be helping people?
Right.
And like once again, not every alignment's gonna resolve itself to being, oh, I should help every person,
Hmm.
but it's if one person in the party or two people in the party go, I want to go help them, and the other three are like, nah, I'd be like, Like,
And sometimes, sometimes in AL, like, I have to break stuff down and be like, this is what the mod is. Like,
yeah.
if you don't want to do this, that's fine, but, like, we're only going to be here a half hour then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but
If you guys want to go to bed early, cool, but it's like...
Right, yeah. And honestly, like, some of these mods, like, even when you do that, like, a 2-hour mod turns into an hour mod, or a 4-hour mod turns into an hour mod. I know that we had that issue with the Season 5 mod last month, where...
Just because of wording.
Just because of the wording and how things went, but...
Yep.
I don't know.
So, well, I guess we beat the heck out of that
Yeah.
one, so I think it's...
Part 2, Dark Awakening. Omu, the cause of the chaos, has fled into the Quivering Forest and toward the isolationist elven city of Greenhall. Omu's domination has turned the Forest Guardians against the elves. After challenging an encounter with a treant and its awakened trees, the remaining elves flee, leaving behind gratitude for the party and little else. Omu's corruption wanes as he flees further from Greenhall. Throughout this season, there is constant references to these elves that are shitty. They're not good. They
are awful. They're
terrible people.
Like their whole shtick is, of course, like being away, which is fine.
Right.
That's fine. However, these elves have only required assistance, haven't given any assistance, really.
Right. And never assist through the end of the problem. They always require assistance, and then as soon as you start taking care of the problem, they bail. Like,
and it's funny because this is constant through the realm too. It's like, yeah.
And the other thing is the leader of these elves is a heroic NPC from season 1.
Yep.
Like,
Hi, Glenmere. Just out here.
Bizarre. It's bizarre.
Yeah, and she's here, and I thought there's an interesting note which I felt like harkens back to a different edition.
Mm-hmm.
She says without her spell book, she can only cast cantrips. Isn't that a 3/5 thing?
I mean, that's a 5th ed thing too. But
you don't need to pull your book out.
In 3rd edition, well, you have to have your book with you as a wizard. In 3rd edition, like, you couldn't even do that. Like, your 0 level spells were also in your spell book. But like, so cast cantrips. Like,
yeah, she did it. She's
like,
I gotta go.
Like, I don't have anything but cantrips. Okay, well,
you're supposed to be like tier 4. That's more damage than any of us have. But it is what it is, and we just keep trudging along through the baloney in this.
And there are 6 wood elf scouts. Scouts are ballers, man. Like, they put out I guess maybe not. It's all piercing damage against the trees, so maybe not. But like,
who cares?
Do
not immune
something.
To damage.
Like, I don't know.
But it's a tough. I don't say it's a tough fight. A tree, it's not something fun to go against.
It
just dunks you for like a dumb amount of damage, and you're just like, oh, cool, I just got walloped.
Yeah.
Like, and it can like awaken trees, I think.
Yeah, that's already used in this encounter.
Oh, my bad. The rock throw does 28 damage, or it can do 2 slam attacks for 16 apiece.
Right.
With a 10. Oh, it's only got 5-foot reach.
Yeah. It's
on a huge
blights. The tree blights are. That seems wrong, but the tree blights are the stronger ones. But still, like, it's a tough fight, man. Like, it's irritating that the elves just bailed. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge.
And it's
fan.
not like they bailed because they're wounded. They just left. Like, if it was like Aya's wounded and they're trying to get her to safety, I'd be like, okay. All right.
Yeah, so it's
that checks
the
out.
elves retreat to the edge of the clearing, farthest from the treants, and continue to fire arrows for 3 rounds for 18 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah, it's enough. Before escaping into the forest, their natural abilities allowing them to escape the awakened trees. Once the combat is cleared, they do not stick around out of gratitude. They get out while the gut getting is good.
Yeah. Like,
you can't make that up. Like, Aya Glenmir's like deuces.
Yeah. I suppose, like, that is when the encounter is supposed to end as well, after 3 rounds, because, like, Omu is far enough away. I don't know.
Aya didn't even give, like, the whole, like, hey, thanks. She's like, like
She's
Irish
just like,
goodbye.
right, she's just
There's no
gone when you
Midwest
turn around.
goodbye.
Right.
That's not
You're
a
just like,
Wisconsin goodbye.
just
They're not
like
gonna talk
fighting
at
a
the
tree
door.
for her. And then you turn around to see if she's okay, and she's just gone.
You see her back.
Like,
Yeah, you see her back, or you see like the shadow of her leaving. It's
all
like,
right, I guess
this
she's
lady.
fine.
And so, I mean, it's a tough fight. That's not a question.
Yeah.
Definitely a resource smack. I think you probably have to take a rest at this point. Some sort of rest.
I mean,
after dealing with the town, if you don't have a quick, easy solution, and then you have the forest, you are hard pressed to be like, yeah, I need to. But at the same time, you still are chasing Omu.
I think that.
Well, no. He at the end of it says that the forest calms down.
Yeah, because he's far enough away.
Omu.
Yeah, there's a trail, I guess, so you could track him later. I don't know. That's one of the things that's frustrating to me because, like, there's no. I feel like there should be a consequence for resting, right? I feel like there should be like a better preparation on Omu's part. If you've taken time to rest, like if you give him 8 hours to prepare when you encounter him later, I would think that he would be better prepared. But
I mean, he doesn't need much preparation.
That's true.
He's literally a psionic mongrel who effed up the place for a good minute.
That's true.
The reason being is having experienced that fight, it is so not fun as a player.
Let's get into that then. Part 3, A Lost and Broken Dream. The party chases Omu to his lair, a shrine to Esme. After a ridiculous encounter with Omu and magical counterspelling pieces of art, the party finally settles the chaos that Omu created, allowing them to reconvene and attempt to devise a last stand against Omu. This fight.
Combat's just frustrating.
This fight is frustrating because with a strong party, there are 2 pieces of art that cast 2 spells, like Counterbolt and Counterspell and like Guiding Bolt or something.
Telekinesis.
Telekinesis. That's it.
It's like I don't mind if that happens, but like, what's kind of this is the part where they mention him being like the oppressor and the victim in the sidebar, and it's interesting because like he's so talented.
Yeah.
So talented. But as an obsession, he's lost himself.
Yeah.
And it even brings up like what could have happened if he wasn't so madly in love. Yeah. And it's just like it makes him feel like not a bad guy, but he's still a bad guy.
Like, and the problem is like he would have been even worse if he wasn't like he'd be the right hand of Strahd if he wasn't obsessed with Esme, because he's very powerful. Like
he's just in existence, one of the most powerful beings in the realm of Barovia,
right? And
willy-nilly.
Evil,
and evil, like.
It's a tough fight. He's got legendary actions. He's got layer actions.
I mean, he's got like a page committed to him. He's got a page and change committed to him.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of hit points. It's just he's annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Like he can be aware when you're running him how much he can do, because he can just bog you down.
Yeah.
Like know what's happening. He can toss damage pretty easily. There's other story things, touched by the mist components.
Like he has advantage on all characters at this point because all of them will have picked up the touched by the mist story reward. Like they have disadvantage. He has disadvantage. They have disadvantage on saving throws against him. And
this is probably one of those points where I kind of step in as a DM and be like, this is getting out of control really fast.
Yeah.
Because a DC 15 intelligence saving throw is still pretty damn difficult without a paladin.
Yeah, I mean, like, nobody's stacking it except for wizards. You know,
And
like,
you're stunned for a minute.
yeah.
That's a I am against a lot of anything that deals with stunning for that long of a time frame.
You
Unless
just,
I'm the DM, then I don't care.
well, yeah, I mean, like, you just, like, end up in a situation where, like,
Your
your players are
fighter is
upset
now
because they can't
stuck.
do anything. You
Yeah,
know,
like your
like,
fighter's stuck and he can't do damage. Your barbarian's stuck because he can't roll that high unless he rolls like an 18.
yeah,
Like 18 plus or whatever. Like he has to roll. He has a 25% chance or lower of really hitting that
yeah.
because he's not gonna have int. Um,
Short of, like, a cleric dispelling magic, or not a cleric, like a sorcerer dispelling magic or something, like,
it's tough.
yeah.
Like, and his recharge. It's a 60-foot cone. Just be aware of what damage you're tossing and
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing because your dice can get real hot real fast, and then your player's dice can be cold, cold, cold. And
Yeah, some of that stuff, like, if I were running Mind Blast, I would probably say, like, a successful save makes you immune to Mind Blast for 24 hours. You know, like, treat it like a charm
or the
person
advantage on
spell,
it
or
or
you get
something.
advantage, something.
Just be aware of what you're throwing at your players here because this could be just one of those fights that just makes you go like, I don't want to play right now.
Yeah, a recharge 5/6 means by the time your fighter is
Getting it
unstunned, they're
again.
stunned again.
Yep.
Like,
Oh, I just made my way to jumping to him. Oh, he's
yeah,
stunned again. Or worst case scenario, he just gets, one spellcaster gets focused and then he just gets mauled to death.
yeah.
Like because the
Or
stun gives an auto crit
telekinesis from pieces of
from the
art
top rope
throughout the room. Like,
from the top rope getting a telekinesis. And then like part of the ceiling collapse. There's just a lot going
there's a
on.
lot, yeah.
And like even then it's like a restrained creature like if the layer action goes off and you fail a dex save, you take 10 or you're knocked prone and buried, which then takes an action to get out of. Then you could get stunned while buried and then you're suffocating. This fight can go horribly wrong
Mhm.
in one round.
I
One round.
here's the thing. I get that they were trying to put in, like, a hallmark villain, right?
This was him.
Like, the frustrating thing is, like, this isn't even, like,
The
the
worst.
boss of the season, right? That's the next module. Like, I get that they're trying to put in, like, this is the last of her lieutenants, blah blah blah. Like, it's meant to be a challenge. This is pretty egregious, man.
I
Like, I
wouldn't want to
don't.
fight this with a tier 3 character.
It'd be tough.
It would be still tough.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, like,
add a few other
135 hit
things.
points makes it a little bit easier. Like, you just have to burn him down before he gets a turn. But this is,
He's got Phantasmal Killer Plane
yeah,
Shift.
this
Like,
is a punitive.
and he's got Shield. So his AC becomes 22.
This is an author that was really excited to build the
Toss.
strongest monster they could.
And they did a good job.
They did a good job.
This is
It's
a
just not.
wonderful villain.
It's
A
a villain at
sad
tier
villain.
3. It's a villain. You know, it's not. It's not a party level 7 villain. Like,
No, your party's getting wiped.
yeah.
And like what? Actually, I didn't check what the adjustments were for him. Removing the Guardian portraits. That's the only adjustments. That's not enough.
I mean, those Guardian
That's
portraits
not
are
enough.
wild. Like, they are wild. Those Guardian portraits. Like,
Just one failed fireball spell, or
yeah,
if your party's pissing you off and then they cast a healing spell and you're like, nah. And then that is some combative DM shit right
yeah,
there. But it is what it is. The important part is making sure you understand this because I would say flex a little bit on your party.
flex
Yeah, not
in
a
the
lot.
I would say flex in the beginning to show that they are
Exactly.
dealing with a powerful monster, and then lighten up. Like,
A lot.
yeah,
Like maybe one psionic blast and maybe he can only do that one a day. Or I don't know.
yeah.
It's a party of 10s would still have a crappy time dealing with this. I don't. This is like that interim, like high tier 2, low tier 3.
Mhm.
like real high tier 2, and even mid low tier 3.
Yeah.
Like, this is a tough fight, and it's the AC that hurts him, and then just being the damage he puts out, and like that's in addition to all the stuff beforehand.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I agree. I think there's a lot going on here. I think it's it can be very frustrating more than helpful, or more than engaging to the party.
Yep.
Yeah. I know loading him into D&D Beyond was obnoxious for me because there wasn't an already available homebrew version of him, so I had to like code 2 pages of a monster into D&D Beyond. But
we got like 2 hours of use out of him because that was about.
That's true. I mean, we got in terms of amount of time spent loading the character into D&D Beyond, is probably pretty efficient. Anyway, so there it is, DDAL 4-13, the Horseman. Thanks so much for listening. Some advice to streamline and run it at your tables. Be a good neighbor, give us that thumbs up, toll the dead for notifications. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. And from now till the next time, we're all together. Thanks, guys.